to this special edition on the Interim Budget 2024. I'm Suesha Sawant. In this edition, we get you important voices of economists and that from India Inc. to decode what Budget 2024 is going to be like and what you can make of it. That and much more in this edition. First, a quick check of the headlines. Ahead of 2024 Lok Sabha polls, Finance Minister is all set to present interim budget on the 1st of February at 11 a.m. Stage for the temporary financial plan until the new government takes over is set. All eyes on Budget 2024. Will the Modi government present a populist interim budget? We discuss it with key voices from India Inc. After a perplexing vanishing act, Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren reappears in Ranchi. India fails its first big election test. Congress and Aam Aadmi Party cry foul, move High Court in response. And ladies and gentlemen, ahead of the 2024 mega elections, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is all set to unveil Interim Budget 2024 on the 1st of February at 11 a.m., setting the stage for the temporary financial plan until the new government takes over. The comprehensive budget for the fiscal year 2024-25 will be presented in July, regardless of whether the incoming government is new or a re-elected one. This also marks the conclusive budget for the second term of the Narendra Modi government. Officials involved in budget's formulation are currently in a lock-in period adhering to strict confidentiality measures. We get you this comprehensive report on what was presented in Budget 2019 and what you can possibly expect in Budget 2024. Watch this.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is all set to present her sixth budget. While this will be an interim budget, a full-fledged one will be presented after the Lok Sabha elections. The last interim budget was presented in 2019 by the then Finance Minister Piyush Goyal.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present the interim budget for the year 2019-2020.
The 2019 interim budget proposed substantial income tax relief for the middle class by increasing the exemption limit from 2.5 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees. The last interim budget also introduced the Pradhan Mantri Kisan scheme with an aim to provide direct income support to farmers, which was later also launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The standard deduction for salaried employees was increased from 40,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees, providing additional tax relief to the middle class. Gratuity limit was also doubled from 10 lakh rupees to 20 lakh rupees. The Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan scheme was introduced, offering a pension of 3,000 rupees per month for workers after the age of 60 in the unorganized sector. In a bid to provide sustained and focused attention towards development of fisheries, the government also decided to create a separate department. With merely hours to go for the budget presentation and keeping the last interim budget in mind, here's what to expect. In the post-pandemic era, the government has been steadily reducing the fiscal deficit to control debt. The target of 5.9% for the current fiscal year is likely to be met and further lowered to 5.3%. Significant progress in reducing the budget deficit is attributed to increased tax collection. With economic growth above 7%, positioning India as the fastest growing major economy, big focus will be on infrastructure spending. Experts say the government is likely to focus on increased financial support for farmers in the budget. In a bid to consolidate women voters, additional support measures for women is also expected to be a factor. The budget is likely to set the tone for the mega Lok Sabha elections, and all eyes are now on the big interim budget. Bureau Report for Republic Business.
And breaking news coming in. Finance Ministry has said that India could become the world's third largest economy by 2027 with GDP of $5 trillion. The projections come ahead of an interim budget due to be released later this week on the 1st of February. In the report released, Finance Ministry said that the economy is poised to grow at or above 7% in the fiscal year 2024. Cutting across to Sharmila from Republic Business, who joins us in the studio to break down all those details of that report for us. Over to you, Sharmila.
Yeah, so the mood is pretty much upbeat before the interim budget. And the finance minister has completely laid down what to expect in terms of the growth factor. As you can see, Suesha, we're expecting a steady growth in the coming fiscal year, though we know it's an interim budget and we do not expect any major announcements, but we still have in hand the mood set for the upcoming year. And of course, we must note that this is the biggest financial event before the biggest political event, which is the general elections this year. So clearly, we have a roadmap ahead of us. And now whatever comes from this election, this interim budget is going to reflect upon the coming elections. So we expect a happy mood in 2 days from now.
In fact, Sharmila, more breaking news coming in from the Finance Ministry's report, and let's quickly put that out for our viewers as it lauds India's digital transformation, highlighting the success of digital public infrastructure and its significant role in delivering services with a citizen-centric focus. The report notes that as the pandemic had disrupted economic activities, the government has responded swiftly, leveraging the strength of digital public infrastructure. Considering how India is considered among the frontrunners in this zone, how do you look at the progress, Sharmila?
See, the digital success of India is now a textbook case for the world. There are multiple economies looking at the financial consolidation, and which has been implemented through our digitization. So primarily reaching out to the grassroots, enabling people to be able to get on board on payment gateways. This is India's success story of the decade. And clearly this is going to sort of lay out the way forward for the Indian economy and make it so much easier for the government to consolidate on multiple fronts when it comes to our financial future.
In fact, Sharmila, let's once again remind our viewers of the non-stop coverage on the 1st of February. 11 a.m. is when the budget will be presented by the Finance Minister. And we keep you ahead on all that is happening. Also joining us are our special panelists this evening to decode Budget 2024 for us. Let me quickly introduce Suman Chowdhary, Chief Economist, Head of Research, Acute Ratings. N.R. Bhanumurthy, who is the Vice Chancellor of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar School of Economics University, and Amarpal Chadha, who is a tax expert, joining us from ENY. All the guests with us this evening. Very good evening to you. I could firstly want to come to Suman Chowdhary. What do you say? Will it be a populist or a pragmatic budget?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear it properly. Hello.
I'm not too sure if Suman Chowdhary can hear me.
Toss it to the next person.
Can you repeat that?
The next guest.
Mr. Chowdhary, if you can hear me, my first question to you, something that is on everyone's mind this evening and from here on, will it be a populist or a pragmatic budget?
Can you hear me? Hello.
All right, we'll try and fix that line with Suman Chowdhary. I'd also like to hear from Mr. N.R. Bhanumurthy. Sir, if you can hear me, you can take that question if you like, and also to understand what are the key demands coming in from India Inc.
Yeah, I think for your first question, I don't think that it's going to be populist budget, because it's going to be interim budget. It's only meant for 4 months. And I think, in my view, most populist would be the budget when it focuses more on the growth. And government have been focusing on the growth for the past 3-4 years. And I think right now it has put India into the one of the fastest growing large economy. It's all because of the fiscal policy that has been adopted in the last 3-4 budgets. So I would expect a continuation of that focus on the growth. In fact, if you look at the last 3 years, two things has actually become highlights of the budgets. One, clear indication of improvement in the quality of expenditures, and the second is the transparency. In both the aspects, the budgets have actually brought in so much of clarity and also so much of growth perspective in the budgets. And I think I don't see any reason why Finance Minister would like to deviate from that good practices that she has been following for the past 3-4 years.
Right. Suman Chowdhary, if you can hear me, sir, Sharmila, would you like to take the next one?
Yeah. So, the mood, there has been no better time to introduce a budget than now, when India is doing well on so many fronts when it comes to the economy. The growth rate is sort of stable, inflation is coming down in check. What are the, big, the 2 or 3 things that the finance ministry should look at when the minister reads out the interim budget this year?
Hello.
Okay. Hello. Yes, Mr. Chowdhary.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello. Good evening. Hello.
Can I take this question?
Yes, Mr. Chowdhary, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question to you, sir, is that with India being poised at a very good and even, speed at this time when it comes to the growth, numbers, and with so many things working in favor of its economy, with so many financial institutions interested in the Indian growth story right now, in its emerging story, what do you think are a couple of things that the finance minister will keep in mind, or is likely to, provide for in the upcoming interim budget?
Right. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak on this pre-budget subject. Essentially, interim budget is basically, it's a vote and account budget. So you don't expect much of major announcement, particularly on any economic reforms. But to us, there are 3-4 key aspects that we expect to be covered in the budget. Number one, the commitment to fiscal consolidation. I think that's a clear message. The government is expected to, have in its revised estimate a number close to 6% of GDP as a fiscal deficit for the current fiscal. And possibly they will target around 5.3%, which is a sizable reduction in FY25, and likely to target around near about 4.5%. Remember that we used to have 4.7% as fiscal deficit in FY20. And it was COVID and its aftermath, which actually has stretched the fiscal position. But the idea is that I think the government is serious, and it will send a communication that it wants to revert to the earlier path of fiscal consolidation. I think that's number one. Number two is, as my guest speaker also alluded to, there is a definite focus on the quality of fiscal expenditure. We have seen it in the last 2-3 years. As a percentage, the capex budget of the government has steadily increased. They have targeted around 10 lakh crores in the current year. We expect a further increase in the next year. Although I believe that the kind of growth that we have seen in that budget in the last 2 years, it's difficult to sustain that. But clearly the focus on infrastructure creation will definitely be there. The third part, which I believe is very important, there are some segments of the economy which are continuing to see stress. We have seen that rural incomes have not grown that much. There has been the impact of El Nino phenomenon. The crop output has not been up to expectation. So we expect that there will be some additional measures to provide relief to the farmers So through enhancement of programs like PM Kisan or Manrega, there may be relief programs for the unemployed youth, or maybe women from weaker sections of the society, or maybe even tribals. So there is definitely going to be some focus on that. The last thing is, I also expect the government to kind of communicate that they're very serious on sustainability projects, on green finance projects. So we would expect that some kind of announcements on easier green financing, maybe something on green bonds as well. Because green bonds, if you see in the domestic market, green bonds are yet to take off. So definitely, these are the four things that we would expect in this interim budget.
Also, I see on the screen right now, Mr. Amarpal Chadha is a tax expert, ENY. Amarpal Chadha, to understand from you, do you think there'll be something for the middle class in terms of tax rationalization, or will that be a concern?
Thanks for that. I think there is some level of audio problem that I am hearing back from your channel. But if I understand your question correctly, you're asking what are the changes that you expect from a personal tax perspective. So I'll quickly capture, we all know it's a vote on account. Still, we have large expectations. And I think every taxpayer has some level of expectations from the budget. But what likely could happen is that we could look at some benefits for the salaried class or for others to look at a transition from the current tax regime to the new tax regime. It's become mandatory from last year for employers to first keep people in the new tax regime. We may see some further incentives to move to new tax regime so that people currently, especially the salaried people who, because of HRA and other benefits, want to continue in the old regime, they get incentivized to move to a new tax regime. As hopes go, we also are looking at some level of rationalization on capital gains. So can the period of holding be standardized across different classes of assets? Is it possible to also look at the house property and remove the threshold for losses or increase it from 2 lakhs to 3 lakhs? And similarly, for example, the benefit that the people are looking,
To Mr. Bhanumurthy, sir, India, to my mind, has done very well in the face of a global economic crisis over the last financial year. We actually protected ourselves from slipping into the recession primarily because of our domestic consumption. But at this stage, what do you think the India Inc. really looks forward to from this budget?
Yeah, I think, India Inc. is looking at kind of a stability in the overall macro policies. And I think India Inc. should also understand that the kind of predictability in both fiscal and monetary policies in India should be a big boost for improving sentiments in the economy. And I think this is exactly what Honorable Finance Minister asked. What is actually holding the private sector when everything is going well? Why you are not able to invest? I think they may be looking at a couple of headwinds. I think that will be challenge for the forthcoming interim budget as well. One of the biggest headwind that we are actually looking at is the whole global economic environment. And going by the trends that we have right now, it looks completely, it has some kind of negative sentiments, particularly if you look at what's happening in the Red Sea, what is happening in the advanced countries' economies, and what's happening to our exports as well as the other commodity prices. So although we have done well when it comes to domestic policy, but I think the industry must be looking at a little more closely about what's happening to the external demand. So in that context, there are a little more, pessimism among the investors, and I think that will be some clarity once the U.S. Federal Reserve decides on the interest rate policy in the next round. But more than that, other headwind that I thought I would bring it to the discussion is that, yes, I think we have been doing well in the past 3-4 years, but we are actually facing some headwinds even domestically when it comes to the states. So I think the central government has a larger role. They have done extremely well in the current year, where they're trying to handhold, in terms of providing capital resources to the states, and also, transferring advanced tax collections. So I think the central government also need to further handhold the states, because states are going to play a major role if you really want to achieve what my previous speakers has pointed out, that you want to achieve a lower fiscal deficit to GDP ratio going forward. So I think the central government and the budget needs to focus on two major headwinds, and also for that India, for that matter, the global environment and the issues at the state level. So I would expect that finance minister focus on both these aspects when she talks about medium-term fiscal path. Just to add to my previous speaker, one thing which I'm looking forward in the budget is a clarity about the overall fiscal consolidation roadmap. And I think they need to reach 4.5% by 25-26. And I think that glide path should not be deviated in my view. And if we can do that, we'll have more space for private investments. And I think that will give more confidence for the private sector also to borrow from the domestic banks.
Right. Right. Mr. Chowdhary, if you could further elaborate on this point, also adding, sir, that inflation has been a concern world across. But India has had a very balanced approach in terms of using corrective measures and how we surge rationally. How do you think India is faring in comparison to other emerging economies across the globe?
Right. So as far as inflation is concerned, we have, after COVID, we have seen a surge in inflation across the world. And we all know that supply constraints, high commodity prices, it had actually led to very high inflation in whether it is a developed economy or developing economies. Now, subsequently, of course, the imposition of very tough monetary policy, it has gradually led to lower inflation, and obviously the improvement in supply chain. It has also kind of resulted in lower inflation. So what we see across the world is that inflation is gradually, it has not exactly come to the target, whether it is the Fed or the RBI, but it is kind of getting into that comfort zone of the central banks. So definitely there is a lot of achievement of the government and RBI on this. It is not only about a tighter monetary policy. It is also about the proactive measures that the government has taken, I would say, on a regular basis to control food prices. We have seen that across the last calendar year, 2023. Whether, if you talk about the price of pulses, the prices of cereals, rice, wheat, previously the price of edible oil, I think these have all made a difference to kind of moderating what could have been a far worse outcome on food inflation. Food inflation, we cannot be still very complacent about it. RBI is still cautious on that matter because we still have that El Nino phenomenon. And there are dry weather conditions prevailing in certain parts. So you can still see the impact of food inflation. What is comforting at this point is the government seems to be on top of it and is ready to take measures to control food prices, which is also giving a lot of comfort to the market and to the central bank.
In fact, we are slightly short on time, and as we wind up this discussion, a quick last question with Mr. Chadha, as I see you back on our screens. Mr. Chadha, you think the government is going to make an attempt to incentivize people to take to the new tax regime? Shortly on that, sir, then we slip into a short commercial break.
No, absolutely. I think this is the right timing. The government has been trying to do that. So it will be really good if the government considers that kind of a move to simplify the taxpayer experience, and people can then we also get one regime to go forward.
Right. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. And of course, we continue with our coverage on the 1st of February. Sharmila Bhaumik leading that coverage, and our entire team of our business getting our viewers all the updates ahead of Budget 2024, which is to be announced by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on the 1st of February at 11 a.m. On that note, we wind up this edition. We'll be back. Do stay tuned.